Hello everyone. Welcome to your daily dose of Bitcoin news right here on January 10th, 2026. I'm thrilled to be breaking down the hottest updates in the world of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency today. If you're into crypto, you know how fast things move, and today is no exception. Bitcoin's been on a roller coaster, but there's so much positive momentum building. Let's jump right in and see what's driving the market. I promise, by the end of this, you'll have all the insights you need to stay ahead. And hey, if you're new here, make sure you stick around because we're covering everything from price action to big institutional plays. First off, let's talk about where Bitcoin stands right this moment. As of this morning, Bitcoin is trading around $91,000 per coin. That's up a bit from earlier in the week when it dipped below $90,000, but it's still down from its all-time high of about $126,000 back in October 2025. Remember that peak? It was fueled by massive institutional buying and hype around regulatory clarity. Now we're seeing a bit of consolidation, but don't let that fool you. This could be the calm before another storm. The market cap for Bitcoin is hovering just under $1.8 trillion, making it the undisputed king of crypto. Volume-wise, we're looking at over $50 billion in the last 24 hours, which shows there's still plenty of liquidity and interest out there. Why the recent bounce? Well, a big factor was the latest US jobs report. The unemployment rate ticked lower than expected, coming in at 4.1%, which boosted overall market sentiment. Stocks are up, gold is steady, and Bitcoin's riding that wave. When traditional markets feel optimistic, crypto often follows suit, especially Bitcoin, as a risk-on asset. If you've been watching your portfolio, you might have noticed Bitcoin heading into a positive week overall, up about 2% since Monday. That's not explosive, but it's steady. And in crypto, steady wins the race sometimes. Now let's dive into some of the top stories making headlines today. One of the biggest buzzes is around the potential for the United States to start buying Bitcoin as part of a national strategic reserve. Yeah, you heard that right. The US government could become a Bitcoin whale. Investor Cathie Wood from ARK Invest dropped this bombshell in a recent interview. She thinks, with crypto becoming a key political issue, especially under President Trump, we might see active purchases starting this year. Imagine the impact. The US already holds seized Bitcoin worth billions, but actively buying. That could push prices through the roof. Wood points to the 2026 midterm elections as a catalyst. Politicians want to appeal to the growing crypto voter base. If this happens, it could validate Bitcoin as a global reserve asset, just like gold. What do you think? Would this make you more bullish on holding long term? Speaking of governments getting involved, Florida is making moves too. State officials are reportedly planning their own Bitcoin reserve. This isn't just talk, it's part of a broader trend where states are looking at crypto to diversify their holdings. If Florida pulls this off, other states might follow, creating even more demand. It's exciting to see Bitcoin transitioning from a niche investment to something governments are seriously considering. On the institutional front, we've got some mixed but mostly positive signals. BlackRock and Fidelity's Bitcoin ETFs saw heavy outflows earlier this week, about $500 million combined, as investors locked in profits after the strong start to the year. But guess what? Flows are turning positive again. US spot Bitcoin ETFs have pulled in over $1.5 billion year to date, with one day alone seeing $825 million in inflows. That's huge. Bank of America just upgraded Coinbase to a buy rating, keeping their $340 price target. Coinbase is a major player in the ETF space, so this vote of confidence could spill over to Bitcoin itself. And get this, BlackRock withdrew over $50 million in Bitcoin from Coinbase just yesterday. Their first big buy after days of selling. Institutions aren't backing out. They're repositioning. JP Morgan is also turning bullish. In their latest report, they say Bitcoin has room to grow, especially with improving macro conditions. They're pointing to lower volatility and stronger on-chain metrics as reasons to buy the dip. On-chain data backs this up. Bitcoin's long-term holder selling has dropped to 2017 lows, meaning the OGs aren't dumping. Plus, Binance has been accumulating millions in Bitcoin, buying over $125 million worth recently. When exchanges like that stock up, it's often a sign they know something good is coming. Let's not forget about the predictions rolling in for 2026. These are always fun because they show just how much potential experts see. CNBC rounded up some bold calls. Prices could drop as low as $75,000 in a bear case or soar to $225,000 on the high end. Carol Alexander from the University of Sussex sees a volatile range between $75,000 and $150,000, centering around $110,000. But the bulls are louder. Goldman Sachs issued a huge forecast, predicting Bitcoin could hit $200,000 by year-end, driven by adoption and policy shifts. They say the recent dip from $126,000 is just a correction, and with gold and silver expected to surge, Bitcoin could follow as a digital alternative. Tom Lee from Fundstrat is another big voice. He's super optimistic, saying Bitcoin could bounce in January, but warns of a potential drawdown in the first half before a massive rally later. He's been right before, so I'm paying attention. And for those of you into Ether, Lee thinks it could soar 177% in the early stages of 2026. While our focus is Bitcoin, it's worth noting because a strong Ethereum often lifts the whole market. Shifting gears to some challenges. Because let's be real, crypto isn't all sunshine. Bitcoin retreated a bit on Thursday due to those ETF outflows, but it rebounded quickly. There's talk of renewed momentum, with resistance around $95,000 to $98,000. If we break that, analysts say we could see a strong rally fueled by institutional demand. On the flip side, Wenny Kai from Sin Futures notes that Bitcoin entered 2026 with a more complex setup than past cycles. We're recovering from that turbulent end to 2025, but the setup looks promising. Other crypto news tying into Bitcoin. Zcash crashed 30% after their team left, but bounced back 20% with a new wallet setup. XRP is down 10% after $40 million in ETF outflows, but its supply on exchanges hit 7-year lows, which could mean a squeeze coming. Solana is prepping an airdrop for Seeker users, and meme coins like PP are leading gains. Bitcoin dominance is crashing, which means money is rotating into alts. That's great if you're diversified, but it could pressure Bitcoin short term. Still, with Bitcoin holding strong, the overall market sentiment is cautiously bullish. Let's talk macro factors, because they always influence Bitcoin. The jobs data we mentioned earlier is key. Weaker job growth might signal Fed rate cuts, which are rocket fuel for risk assets like Bitcoin. Early 2026 data suggests US jobs might soften, giving Bitcoin more room to grow. Global M2 money supply is at all-time highs, which could mean more liquidity flowing into crypto. And with 48 countries launching crypto tax data collection, regulations are tightening, but clarity often brings in more investors. On the regulatory side, big news. SEC Chair Paul Atkins confirmed a Bitcoin and crypto innovation exemption is coming this month. After a decade of uncertainty, this means less fear, more clarity, and more growth. The US is embracing Bitcoin officially. That's a game changer for adoption. Looking ahead, what does all this mean for you? If you're holding Bitcoin, these signals point to potential upside. Under a base case, hitting $200,000 by end of 2026 isn't out of reach, especially with government buys and ETF inflows. But watch for risks like geopolitical tensions or inflation surprises. My advice? Stay informed, diversify a bit, and don't chase every rally. Use tools like on-chain analytics to spot real moves. We've covered a lot today, from prices and predictions to institutional plays and macro vibes. Bitcoin's story in 2026 is just getting started, and it's shaping up to be epic. If this helped you navigate the market, do me a favor. Smash that like button, subscribe for more daily updates like this, and drop a comment below with your Bitcoin price prediction for the end of 2026. Is it $150,000, $200,000, or higher? I read every comment, and your thoughts could spark our next discussion. Share this with a friend who's into crypto. Let's grow this community together. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow for more Bitcoin insights. Stay bullish, stay smart.